Naofumi Iwatani. He's just a normal guy. The same things you would probably do on the daily, he would do as well. Currently in college at this moment, Naofumi continues on with his various hobbies. Anything he can possibly have fun with. Gaming, reading manga, reading books in general. He kind of just does whatever. His parents treat him very nicely and give him an allowance for staying at home and taking care of, well, his little sister. During this time, he would just, hang around, have a good time, read books, read manga, play video games, play a lot of video games. He loves him some video games. And obviously, occasionally hang out at the library. And one day, though, would be life-changing. He would arrive at a library that felt a little off for some reason. But he decided, out of a spur of a moment choice, he wants to learn about something new. Maybe read up on something new. Reading about some mythical hero. A hero that would wield a hammer that was bound to him, that would give him magical powers to the point where he could summon maybe even thunder, lightning, anything like that, and maybe even fly. This hero would start out from base level though, would start out with practically nothing. This hero would have to build himself up to become even stronger, and that hero would be known as the Hammer Hero. The Hammer Hero? That sounds kinda lame. Swords are better, spears probably. Honestly, even I'll take a bow or a gun over that. A hammer? Really? What am I gonna do? Build a house? Come on. As Naofumi is mocking the idea of a hammer, the book that he has open begins to flip pages at a rapid rate and show him something very, very interesting. It's an image of himself. But why is there an image of himself? This begins to creep out Naofumi, looking around for the people that were just there. There was at least 20 to 25 people here at one point. But now, there's nobody. Naofumi sees that nobody's there, and the book begins to burn his hand as he drops it, making a bright light show all across the room, and Naofumi is transported away to a brand new world. Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. I am back with a brand new Naofumi What If, the first installment of Naofumi, the legendary hammer hero. Yes, a What If Naofumi fanfiction. I don't know, I'm so used to just saying what if. I mean, you guys know what this is now. It's a fanfiction. And this first installment is called The Allmighty or Allmighty. And if you enjoy, as usual, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below. Also, check the description. I got a Spotify with some of my what ifs that are eventually all of them will be on Spotify. But go check out that Spotify. Link in the description below. Check out the Discord in the link in the description below. If you're a YouTube member, you get a special role in my Discord. On top of that, if you're a YouTube member, you get videos early. So you could have been watching this right when I finished it. Okay, none of that. I'm done with all that promo stuff. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way. But nonetheless, I hope y'all enjoy, and let's just get right into the what if. Let's get it. Naofumi looks to his left. He's in a brand new world now, in a brand new area. When he looks to his left, he sees three other people with various weapons: a bow, a sword, and a spear. Something that he did not expect to see. Of course, he even brought it up while he was looking at that book, and he wonders, does that mean I have a hammer? But he looks at his hand, and he's carrying a very small mallet. Like a mallet that you'd use to hit in nails or stuff like that. What the heck is this? Literally a mallet. It's a small mallet. What? These guys have swords and spears, and I get a mallet? Naofumi is frustrated a little bit, but he looks at the other heroes as they just shrug their shoulders, not knowing what's even going on. Eventually, the explanation is then awakened to them. Someone comes downstairs explaining exactly who they are. The four cardinal heroes. He begins to say, the spear, the bow, the sword, and the shield. You're not the shield hero. In which Naofumi's confused as well. The shield hero? I mean, I have this small hammer. It's like a mallet. In which they're confused and they say they need to talk with the king immediately. The king greets all of them and introduces himself, saying that they're here to stop the waves of catastrophe that are running rampant in their world. But that is something different. it seems that one of the heroes were summoned for a different hero. He's not so sure how that even happened, but it doesn't look like this hero is too strong. But he doesn't say that out loud, basically explaining the most he possibly can, and Naofumi actually does pick up on the whole HUD menu thing immediately. Knowing a lot about video games in this reality, he does pick up on some of the more video game-esque ideas in this universe, immediately bringing it up, and Ren even says he actually realized that as well, that the HUD menu basically tells you various skills you have, but when Naofumi looks, it seems like his is very restricted, that it all wraps around his hammer he has currently. This hammer he has in his hand is odd. It's just a small mallet, and it seems like he can only get to a max level of 5 while using this hammer. That's weird. Maybe that kind of makes sense though. I mean, this hammer sucks. I have to get a different version of it, I would assume. But obviously Naofumi will have to deal with that later when the king tells them that it's time for them to head basically to bed, especially with the night quickly approaching. So they all basically just head over to a hotel and begin to speak to each other, talking about this world, how it's video game like, and learning that they're all from different types of Japan, or just different worlds that have Japan in it, explaining that exactly who they are and what they've been through. And Naofumi, on the other hand, actually does have some good experience in terms of video games. He's played a substantial amount of RPG and MMO games, so he has some decent understanding. But there's one problem. His little hammer, that is something that the other people that are adventurers are not gonna like. And that will be shown right when they meet in the morning with the king, when nobody at all wants to join him. Not even the woman by the name of Mine, who seems so kind and forgiving, doesn't want to join him either, because she feels that there's nothing to offer anyways. The king apologizes to Naofumi, saying that he's sorry that nobody can actually join him and that he doesn't want to force them to do so, because that could lead to very bad results. Naofumi says he understands, that he'll find a way to get some other people as well, and maybe slowly but surely he can start attracting some new blood within his party, in which the king wishes him good luck and says that he'll even give him a bonus in his money, giving him close to 2,000 silver pieces so that Naofumi can handle basically everything on his own, at least in the meantime. Everybody goes their separate ways, and relatively quickly at that. Naofumi waves goodbye, and there's no harsh blood by any means between any of them. He immediately goes to one thing, and one thing he learned in his MMO games is to go directly to a blacksmith, looking for a little bit, getting a little bit lost, but eventually finding that said blacksmith. That blacksmith is by the name of Erhard. He introduces himself, and he begins to talk to Naofumi, and Naofumi asks if he can check out some of his hammers. Maybe he can somehow buy one, but just as he picks up one of the hammers that Erhard has, it seems like he actually cannot wield it. He can only wield the one he has. But what is something he begins to try is he touches his little mallet on other hammers that are there. And once he does that, it seems like that hammer is replicated and duplicated in the mallet he has already, creating a giant hammer, or at least a sizable one that he can actually do some damage with. Naofumi apologizes. He doesn't mean to rip off all his hammers, and Erhard begins to panic, like he's gonna make him run out of business. So Naofumi decides to throw him 400 silver and says he wants to copy all of the hammers if that's not a big problem. Of course, Erhard says that's fine, especially because people can still come and buy those hammers after he's copied them. So Naofumi copies every single one, even the higher level ones. The problem is though, the higher level ones are actually unable to be used at this moment, so he can actually use one that is basically perfect for his level, at least in the meantime. In terms of skills, he has no idea. He doesn't really know any skills he currently has, but maybe he'll figure that out as he goes. He thanks Erhard and says he wants to keep him in good graces and he'd like some good armor, maybe some armor that he's seen in a video game before, something that would give him strong protection but decent flexibility. And Erhard says he knows exactly that, giving him some armor that's not heavy by any means, but it's this solid chainmail that has this outer fitting of metal that will block for him, and it seems like it's perfect for his body to move within. It's very similar to of Norse mythology, similar to some of Odin and Thor's armor that would definitely make Naofumi stronger in its own little way. Naofumi begins to head out, looking for his first quote-unquote monster to fight, finding these small orange balloons. That first swing, he can feel the power beyond the hammer. He feels that it seems so light for him, but at the same time, when he lands the blow on something or someone, it feels so heavy, as if the hammer is responding to the hit on this monster. But Naofumi, when he spins it around, it's as if it was light as a feather, as if he had complete and utter control over it. So he decides that he'll throw it at a monster far away, doing just that, slamming the monster into a tree. This little rabbit obliterates into pieces, and Naofumi puts out his hand, and once he does that, the hammer just comes right back to him. He's actually shocked to see this. Now this is something. At least I know that much, but what else can I do? Naofumi actually can't do much else. Frankly, he can only do so much with his hammer, but he does want to try something else. He begins to try and throw the hammer while strapped to his arm, and he begins to lift himself off the ground. But not to the point where it's like flying, but it's to the point where he can at least do some decent sized jumps and make travel slightly quicker. Alright, that should be beneficial as well. Definitely get me to places faster, that's for sure. During this night, or during this day and night, Naofumi decides that he'll just rip through monster after monster using his new hammer and just try to get a grasp on his power. Learning that his hammer is restricted extremely in terms of power. He has no special effects, no special skills that he has like how he would in an MMORPG, but maybe soon to come he will get those. Nonetheless, he heads to bed that night, but before he can actually go to bed, someone approaches him. Someone that is a bit creepy, that's for a fact. This man owned a slave market that could definitely benefit Naofumi. Naofumi doesn't know how to feel about this. He doesn't know if he actually wants to buy a slave, but the man just says that he should just come check it out. And when Naofumi does, he feels terrible. He sees some of these people, some of these monsters that are trapped. Of course, he can't just set them all free. It wouldn't make sense. If he did, maybe they'd go rampant, maybe they'd kill him, maybe they'd kill everybody. So he decides that he won't do that. But his heart drops when he sees a small little girl stuck in a cage. His sympathy comes out and he immediately asks how much is her. Of course, the slave market owner says that she's practically useless, that she'll die in the heat of battle like nothing. Naofumi says that's not a problem and it doesn't matter. So he buys the girl by the name of Raphtalia and takes her away, learning of her mild cold and helping cure it pretty easily actually. He's learned that with his hammer and various hammers, he can actually make medicines. It's odd, it's as if it was its little mallet. How much can his small mallet do? He knows he made fun of it at the end of the day because, I mean, it's a small mallet that can just like hit in nails. But it had some benefits in terms of making something to cure her, and it made it so that she was cured in a matter of a day. Done and dusted, just like that. So maybe he can actually do more things than he possibly can even imagine. It's not just brute strength with the hammer. Maybe there's utility that he isn't thinking about. With that said, Naofumi needs to head out. Head out and get some new armor and also some new weapons for Raphtalia. So that is exactly what he does. Gets her a longer sword and some decent armor, telling her that if she wants to fight, she can. But that choice is still up to her. But she seems pretty convinced that she wants to help him. After, of course, Naofumi helped her out and basically saved her from that slave market, that's what she wants. She wants to help him the best she possibly can. Naofumi is not going to deny her that, of course, so he decides that he'll let her tag along and gain some experience points. And of course, they don't have the slave crest, but they have a different type of bond. It seems that the deeper bond in terms of connection in this world, especially with having true connections in this world, is very important. Getting extreme boosts in XP when you have that. It's the same idea in terms of slave crests, but Naofumi doesn't want a slave crest on Raphtalia and on anybody that he eventually brings into his party. Nonetheless, they begin their training, begin leveling up, and Raphtalia begins to learn her sword. But the only problem is her giant fear of blood. But Naofumi basically leads her into learning how to get over that fear. Eventually, she's able to stab a rabbit through the chest and overcome that said fear relatively quickly. But another fear would become prevalent after they get news of Loot Village and they begin speaking of people in Loot Village. He actually does ask about this little plot that they have. It seems like there's a plot in Loot Village that is empty, and he asks if he could build something there, if that would be okay, and that he'll pay money for it. And they say that, of course, that 20 silver is just fine for an entire plot. It's as if you were basically having your own place instead of renting from a hotel, so 20 silver is fine with them. In which he's happy to give that money, even giving him 100 silver instead. They say that's way too much, but Naofumi says that it's just fine. It doesn't matter to him. So he goes over and actually transforms his hammer back into a small mallet, and he begins to test something out, getting some supplies that are very simple, wood and other stuff like that, and he actually is able to build and construct almost instantaneously. Alright, that is definitely something. I'm sorry I made fun of you, you little mallet. Definitely beneficial. Naofumi begins to build them a house, so they can, for one, save money and not go at a hotel all the time, but this is good because now he can actually take supplies with him and make small shelters for them to actually sleep instead of if they were traveling and just sleep out in the wilderness. Naofumi believes this to be actually extremely beneficial, which he would be right, but at the end of the day, he still needs to make some more money. Yes, he has a decent amount right now, being at maybe 800, 900 silver pieces, but money runs out so fast in this world, especially with food, with armor, with weapons, anything you can think of, and keeping people basically in good regard of him. It costs a lot of money. He wants Erhard to be loyal to him all the time, and he wants the Loot Village place to like him as much as possible, so spending a little extra coin here and there definitely is beneficial for that regard. So he decides that he wants to make some more money, hearing about these gems actually in the cave nearby. So him and Raphtalia are going to head over there. When they head over, he actually begins to just smash these with a hammer he has. It seems like his hammers work very similar to a pickaxe, and he can just absorb it into the hammer itself, adding a new type of metal to the hammer as well. But just as Naofumi and Raphtalia are leaving, the two-headed dog reveals itself. Jumping toward Naofumi, Naofumi immediately hits it in the stomach with his hammer. Raphtalia is scared. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to die. But of course, Naofumi comforts her, telling her that it's fine, that they can handle it together. Immediately he begins to bash the dog immediately with his hammer, but Raphtalia then jumps in and slices off both of its heads. Naofumi smiles, proud of what she has been able to do, and she begins to cry and hugs him, asking him to never leave ever. In which Naofumi says that he won't as long as she wants to be here. But of course, if she chooses that this isn't the style that she wants to live her life, she can always live in the home that they have at Loot Village. It's that simple. In which Raphtalia thanks him, but she wants to fight alongside him and make sure that no other children ever gets hurt by the waves again. Naofumi's happy to hear this, and that is when the true leveling up spree and training begins. Naofumi and Raphtalia go through tons and tons of monsters and ranks up in terms of levels faster and faster, maturing Raphtalia up into practically a woman, being about 18, 19 years old, at least physically. Raphtalia obviously still has the mindset of a child to a certain degree, but learning basically how this world works allows her to mature mentally as well. Naofumi is confused at why that even happens, and he's just basically given this weird sentiment that demi-humans, when they level up, that's what happens, which still makes no sense to him. How does that work biologically? He doesn't even know, but luckily he's not really concerned about that at this moment. Nonetheless, they finish up their training. It's been a month and the wave should be upon them very soon, Naofumi being at a level of about 40 to 45 and Raphtalia being at level 30 flat. Naofumi knows how strong they were and how efficient the training was. He's gained a substantial amount of skills in terms of just simple acrobatics and stuff like that, and has learned basic flight. Yes, his hammer throwing is more or less just him flying, but at the same time, it's just a more glorified giant leap in a way, but still, he can control it to the extent that he is flying, and he can even travel long distances with Raphtalia using it. In terms of anything else, he hasn't really gotten much. One thing he does have is more of like this hammer-like smash, where he slams it on the ground, and it creates this ripple effect that sends straight forward, in about a 3 to 4 meter radius, which is pretty strong in its own right, but that's about it. He's more of a brute strength, it seems, at this moment, and at least he can throw the hammer around and hit multiple enemies and basically have it back in his hand in a matter of seconds. Nonetheless, these are all beneficial, and they're all going to help Naofumi in this next wave to come. But before they can do any of that, they head over to the Dragon Hourglass to see how much time is currently awaiting them, to see that there's about a little over 24 hours before the wave is finally upon them, and it does pop in their head that maybe they should actually be protecting, well, Loot Village. They have a house there, they have places there, and they have a lot of people that they enjoy being around there. So maybe it's for the best if they head over there first in terms of the wave, protect them, and if the other heroes really need help, that they can help in the long run. In which the other heroes come in saying that they probably won't need help anyways, so if he wants to protect that measly town, they go right ahead. Once he hears them bring up this idea of a measly town, he questions what their egos are like, what are they acting like, and did this happen because of the people that are around them? Maybe. He doesn't necessarily bring this up to them, but Raphtalia can spot it from a mile away. Naofumi has always treated Raphtalia with respect, saying that you always treat others with respect as well, to the extent that you want to be as nice as possible and respectful as long as they are respectful to you. And Naofumi has been pretty firm about this precedent, and he hasn't really had any other reason not to be, in a way. Nonetheless, he just begins to kind of shrug it off a bit, but Motoyasu then approaches Raphtalia trying to get with her or flirt with her, basically saying that a woman shouldn't be fighting her own battles, but Raphtalia just tells him basically to bug off, that she wants nothing to do with him, in which Naofumi kind of laughs about, and Motoyasu asks Naofumi what he's laughing about, and he says, well, him, isn't it pretty obvious? And he explains that Raphtalia just isn't that type of girl, so he should just be careful with what he says, or she might just stab him. She's not like, under control of him, so he can't do anything about it. Nonetheless, they know how much time is before the next wave, so Raphtalia and Naofumi head back to Loot Village. When they arrive, everybody there is a little bit frightened. Not by them, but frightened by the situation. They've heard all about this whole wave thing, and they've seen it before, but supposedly they just get stronger and stronger. So will they actually be okay? In which Naofumi and Raphtalia assure them that they'll be fine, that they're going to stay here to protect them, and if need be, they'll fly off and defeat the main boss themselves. But they hope and they assume that the other heroes will be able to handle that, so they'll be protecting here and maybe another village nearby if need be. In which they're happy to hear this. They are actually ecstatic, and Naofumi actually does ask them if they have what he asked for, in which they're confused but realize what he's asking about. You mean all the other trees? You want us to cut down a bunch of trees and get a bunch of wood, right? Naofumi nods, and he begins to make a simple but decently effective wooden fence around the barrier of Loot Village. He says that it's nothing crazy, and he's able to make this with his hammer, nothing too complex. He's no architect by any means, but he can make some simple walls, and maybe they personally can actually upgrade these walls. Maybe soon they can even upgrade the material, add barbed spikes or something, but for now this will have to do, so hopefully they don't get flanked from various areas and they just handle what's right in front of them, in which they're happy to hear. It didn't take Naofumi nowhere near that long at all. Literally it was like probably an hour for him to put all of it up, because with his hammer or his mallet, he just kind of taps it and it just appears, which is kind of convenient in a way. But Naofumi then just tells them not to worry and that they will be here to protect them. And once the wave begins, the sky becomes cloudy, purple, and a bunch of monsters begin to spawn. It's as if they just appear out of nothingness. Skeleton monsters, these hornet-like monsters, anything you can think of. Naofumi and Raphtalia begin to dash around, killing one after another, and Naofumi throws his hammer around and it begins to just ricochet off of a ton of them, as it builds up speed off of every single hit it gets, destroying more and more of every single monster. This alone is actually giving them a decent amount of XP, surprisingly enough. It's as if it was some auto farm, like using the wave to farm XP on its own is pretty effective. Obviously, they're not going to be doing that as a habit. They have no intention of basically using a catastrophe to their own advantage. But nonetheless, it is something to think about. They've gained some decent experience, and on top of that, Naofumi feels that there's something more that he hasn't quite learned. During this wave, he begins to feel stronger, as if there was something that he was missing. But just as he throws his hammer once again, when it slams into another monster, lightning follows it and it obliterates the monster in a second. He retracts the hammer into his hand and he's shocked. How the hell did I do that? Everyone is shocked as well, even Raphtalia. Raphtalia is amazed. You just shot lightning, how's that even possible? Naofumi has no clue. Like, he's not going to play it off like he does know what just happened. He doesn't know what happened. But just as this occurrence happens, the wave begins to end. Well, it seems like the other heroes did it. I'm glad everyone's safe. Everyone good? He looks around to see that the village is practically no damage at all. And it seems that everyone is safe and sound. Naofumi gives everyone a thumbs up and smiles, thanking everybody for their cooperation and basically helping out when they couldn't protect everybody. In which they thank him and Raphtalia, and it leads them to actually getting a notice that there's going to be a state dinner. So they decide to head up to the state dinner. This dinner that they've been offered. Of course, they grub down, get some good food. Naofumi hasn't had food like this to this degree in a long time. Of course, Raphtalia can make some decent food, and he's bought some decent food as well, but frankly, this is pretty good. This is like food for a king, which it kind of makes sense. I mean, the king is eating this food. But nonetheless, Raphtalia and Naofumi just kind of hang out, have a nice time, but unfortunately that nice time is going to be spoiled immediately. Motoyasu walks over and accuses Naofumi of having Raphtalia as a slave, in which Naofumi says that, well, she was a slave, that he saved her from a slave market, in which Raphtalia confirms, saying that he did, he saved her. But he says that she must have a slave crest on if that's the case, but Naofumi says that's not the case, that he bought her without the slave crest because he didn't want to have her as a slave. Naofumi says that he actually even offered her a place to stay instead of fighting with him, but she insisted on fighting, in which Raphtalia confirms as well. But the woman, by the name of Mine, begins to refuse to believe this to be true, telling Motoyasu that he can't let some filthy scum like him walk around free. Dude, really? You're actually gonna believe her? Motoyasu then responds, of course I'm gonna believe her. That's my trusted, partner right there. Wow, you guys are really dense, huh? Listen, I got her from a slave market. I can't free every single one of them. If you go down to the slave market, you can see how dangerous they are. Secondly, slaves are legal. I'm sorry to break it to you, that's how the world is. At least this world. I don't have a slave crest on her. She's not technically a slave. She could walk out this building right now and leave if she so choose to do so. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. In which Naofumi is just confused, but just turns to Raphtalia and says that it's time for them to go. But just as he's about to leave with her, someone grabs Raphtalia, one of the knights, and muzzles her. Oh, you guys really want to die. Seriously, I've been nice this whole time, and we're doing this? Okay, I'll take your duel. But here's the thing. If you lose, you can never bother me ever again. And if you do, I'm gonna take lethal action. I don't care. In which Motoyasu says that it's not like he'll be able to beat Motoyasu anyways, and that also, I mean, why? He's gonna be scared of some little hammer? Yeah, you'll see. Naofumi then walks down and enters the duel arena. This arena is just like a gladiatorial arena where everyone is watching for their amusement. Naofumi spins his hammer as if it was like some ring of some sorts, as if it was so light that it didn't matter. Naofumi immediately is charged at by Motoyasu and he tries to strike Naofumi, but he lands a clean blow to his stomach, right with his hammer. And when Motoyasu collapses to the ground, he drops his hammer on Motoyasu's stomach, and well, Motoyasu can't move. Well, this is over. You can't pick up the hammer, by the way. I don't know what magical Uru powers are on that thing, but you literally cannot pick it up. I don't know if it's a worthy thing. I don't know if it's a you're annoying thing, but you can't pick it up unless you're me somehow. Don't ask me, I don't know. Naofumi begins to regard this as Motoyasu is stuck on the ground. He literally cannot get up. Motoyasu says that this is unfair and the crowd begins to boo. But the other two heroes that are watching are kind of confused. What? Like, they expected Naofumi to, like, draw out a gladiatorial battle, go blow for blow with him. I mean, if you have a way to win, you win. And that's the way they feel as well. They felt like that a while. I mean, it's that simple. If you have a way to win, you kill them, you defeat them, it's over. And even Naofumi says there's no reason to fight anymore. He could walk up and just stomp on his face, but he's not going to do that. So that's a cheap shot. He has no reason. I mean, of course, he's annoyed with Motoyasu. Of course, he's annoyed with whatever's going on, but he can tell that someone else is in his head. But just as he's saying this, a blast of wind sends him flying to the other side of the stage. And he basically catches himself and just draws back the hammer. Okay, if you want to get up, you can. Listen, you just saw that. You're not blind. One of your teammates just hit me with a wind blast. You were on the ground stuck. Motoyasu is shocked. Well, I guess that does make sense. Motoyasu may be stupid, but I wouldn't think he's that stupid. He's on the ground stuck. He knows damn well he did not do anything, and he couldn't do anything in general, and some magical wind blast sent Naofumi flying. So this does make him question who did it. Naofumi says that he won't beat him like that actually. If he wants to fight, he can fight. Let's go. He allows him up, but Naofumi is blatantly out of his league. It's not even funny either. And in terms of weaponry control, like, Naofumi can outwield him tenfold. It's not even close. His movement is better. His control over his weapon, because it's basically as light as a feather, is way better than Motoyasu's. And Motoyasu is stiff when using it, as if he has no technique. It seems like Naofumi actually has the upper advantage, especially because he doesn't have to worry about the weight of certain weapons. This is perfect, leading to Naofumi landing crucial blows, sending him backwards, and eventually throwing his hammer, hitting him right in the face, knocking Motoyasu out cold. He retracts the hammer, and then immediately throws it toward the guard that muzzled Raphtalia, hitting him in the stomach, knocking him out, and basically taking the muzzle off of Raphtalia and allowing her to leave. Listen, if y'all ever do this again, we're seriously gonna have a problem. I don't understand what you guys think I am. I don't know who you're imaging me as. I'm the replacement of this so-called shield hero. I don't know if you guys hate them or what, but that's not my problem. I hope you quickly realize that. Naofumi leaves with Raphtalia. Of course, Naofumi doesn't have any ill will, quote-unquote, to certain people, except for that one woman by the name of Mai. He knows a manipulative woman when he sees one. He sees it right here. He has a mother and a father that aren't, the best of relationships. So he obviously knows when a woman or a man is manipulating somebody. So it's pretty blatantly obvious, and it's actually comedically obvious, as if he was watching some reality TV show. But that's a whole nother conversation that he doesn't even want to bring up. Nonetheless, he leaves. He's not in a bad regard with anybody except for her, learning about that she is the daughter of the king, which also makes him question royalty, which would make sense because in all the video games he's played, royalty has been a bunch of assholes. So it's not too outlandish by any means. But being stronger now, Naofumi decides to head back down to that slave market. But when he arrives, it seems like there's nothing there. I guess the slave owner kind of just left. It seems he knew that once Naofumi got stronger, that Naofumi would come down and set all of his monsters free. But it does seem odd. He left in a bit of a hurry, because he left an egg sitting in this odd looking shelf. But it seems as if this egg already has a slave crest on it. So he decides that he'll take it. He's telling Raphtalia maybe he'll spout out a monster, and maybe the monster can help Raphtalia fight as well. In which Raphtalia argues, saying that she fights just as good on her own, but Naofumi pats her on the head, saying that help is nothing to be basically ashamed over. There's nothing wrong with getting help in the long run. When he arrives back at Loot Village, he actually begins to take care of this so-called egg, and eventually leading the egg to actually hatching. This egg turns out to be a Filolial, so he decides that he'll name the Filolial Filo. He knows that it's basic, but it's something simple so they don't forget. But on top of that, during this process of taking care of Filo and getting basically her raised up, which actually only takes a couple days, a younger man actually approaches them. He's about 15, maybe 16 years old. They're not sure exactly how old he is, but he begs them to join their party. Why would you want to do that? You're just putting yourself in harm's way. And immediately he points out Raphtalia, that she is someone that he recognizes, someone from his old village. Your old village? Do you know him, Raphtalia? Raphtalia responds that she's not sure. She doesn't know him. Maybe he was younger at that time? She's not sure. But it seems as if this boy isn't actually 15 or 16. It's actually someone that has been leveling up, training, trying to get stronger, wanting to be part of the hero's journey. He's actually technically younger than Raphtalia, like far younger. I mean, technically in this regard he is in terms of maturity, but he's younger than her as well. He was only a baby, really, when Raphtalia got there. So their year difference is a couple years, maybe 3 to 4 years. But he does look 15 or 16 because of the immense training he's put his body through. But seriously, why would you want to put yourself in harm's way? There's no reason. In which he responds that he wants to help protect everybody, just like what he's doing. He protected this village, and that he saw all of it. It was so inspiring. Okay, look, what's your name? He says that his name is Banner, and that he has a beast form, and he's a beast monster, and he's not like the normal demi-human. He is actually can transform into a monster himself, in which Naofumi asks him to go right ahead. And immediately he slightly bulks up and his color of his skin turns green. I don't know why, but I just got the heaviest dose of deja vu. Okay, you got it, kid. You're on the team. Naofumi decides to take the young lad in, especially with Filo and also now Raphtalia. They have some decent amounts of party in terms of trying to get stronger now, and their real journey will finally begin. Nonetheless, before they leave though, there's a problem that arises. Mine shows up, actually without Motoyasu, trying to claim this land, Loot Village, but Naofumi is able to ward her off, on top of, well, obviously, the Shadow coming in and serving her a paper, basically telling her that she can't be doing that. So she's able to basically shoo her away relatively easily, but of course he tells all of them to be careful if she comes back. Make sure to have everything set up, and if she does come back, to handle it with anybody they possibly can. Fortify the defenses in a way. Naofumi and his party head off. Being that Filo is the normal size of a Filolial, they kind of just trot their way around. But out of nowhere, Filo just like beefs up and gets even bigger. Oh my god, I didn't think I was feeding you that much. And Raphtalia says that they haven't. For some reason, she's just growing at an insane rate. But this does give them an idea. Maybe they should bring a cart. This, like a big wagon that she can pull around. In which it seems like Filo is really enjoying pulling that wagon around. And when she does, they basically get to a place where they have to kind of hang out and stop. So Naofumi builds like a small little shelter, maybe just like a place that they have like an overheading, and that's about it, not like closed walls or anything like that. But they take a rest, but the next morning, Filo has changed again, scaring the hell out of Banner and Raphtalia, because like, how does that even make sense? Like, how does she change to a little girl? In which Naofumi is at a loss for words as well, getting her clothing as quick as possible, and actually having to head back to Erhard for new clothes. They get her new clothes, that's the matter of fact, but supposedly if she grows into that big size again, they will rip again. So they get clothing for her in the meantime, but just as Naofumi is basically giving her that clothing, it seems as if this power that he has transfers to the clothing itself. Out of nowhere, the clothing grows into an insanely large size, and, well, he assumes that he somehow amplified the magic, in which he still doesn't even know exactly what's going on. He saw it with his hammer. This lightning power came out, and now it hasn't come out since. Now this whole magic thing, he doesn't know what's even going on. It seems like he may have some other mythical powers that he doesn't exactly know about. Looking through his stat menu, seeing that lightning power there, and also the magic touch kind of like ability. It's not to the fact that he can just magically touch things and they change whatever, but it's literally was just with clothing. It was like more of a convenience thing, I guess. And it seems like this hammer and the power beyond the hammer is actually gives him some magical like abilities. He doesn't really understand it entirely, but nonetheless, he's not going to complain. Of course, they head off once again, and they begin on their journey to actually, for one, gain some money, and actually speak with some more and more villages. Luckily, they do come across a trader, and a wealthy one at that, asking for a ride. Giving that man a ride maybe be beneficial for all of them, maybe gain some money, maybe gain some knowledge. But during this ride, they're actually stopped and attacked. They're basically attacked by a bunch of bandits. But Banner says that he will handle this, that he will basically get all this XP, and he'll make sure to basically prove himself in this regard. Naofumi says he doesn't have to prove himself, but of course Banner wants to do just that. He wants to show Naofumi that he can actually hang around and fight for them, and be even stronger than, or even the strongest person in his party. In which Filo and Raphtalia tell him to calm down, in which he kind of rubs the back of his head and laughs. But he transforms into his smaller like Hulk form, or like, so he grows a little bit, he's not growing like crazy. And he jumps at the bandits, smashing a ton of them into basically submission and knocking all of them out cold. Nice job, kid. That is definitely something. Naofumi says that they'll tie them all up and actually take all their stuff, in which obviously Raphtalia isn't too fond about, but Naofumi says that it will be more beneficial for them than for, well, the bandits, because the bandits are just stealing from people. I mean, yeah, they're stealing from the bandits, but the bandits are also trying to steal from them. So, it's a fair trade. When you fight and you lose, you lose. Naofumi kind of laughs about this, and Banner agrees, as they basically take some stuff and they let the bandits go, but tell them to not do this ever again. And if they do, they'll definitely have to punish them severely and put them in prison back in the Melromark Kingdom. They promise to never do anything bad ever again, and just to keep that thing away from them. In which obviously Naofumi doesn't necessarily believe, but at the same time he'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they'll go on to do some good things in this world. Well, maybe not. Nonetheless, the trader says that he'll help Naofumi in any way possible, leading to them finally getting to the place or location that the trader needed to go, and the trader decides that he'll teach Naofumi all of the ways he possibly knows how to trade and gain money, blah blah blah, and he does all that stuff for Naofumi, eventually leading to his first little mission he has to go on to. That first mission is actually to a village that seems to be overrun with plants, so he brings some herbicide to that direction. When they arrive though, this herbicide will definitely not be enough. It seems like there are a ton of monster plants all around. So Naofumi decides to go speak with the people of the village first before doing anything too irrational or irrational. So when he arrives, they begin explaining exactly what happened. That the spear hero Motsuyasu brought this cursed seed and it ended their famine. It did, but now it's just horrible. There's plants everywhere, monsters everywhere, killing people, hurting people, that they need help, and they hope that the hammer hero can do just that. In which Naofumi says that hopefully he can. He just has simple herbicide, and he should be able to enhance that herbicide as well, but he doesn't know how much. So he'll definitely have to take some minorly drastic measures, and he tells them that just up front. They say whatever needs to be done to kill those plants, that they want it done. So he says that he's on the case. So the rest of them decide that they'll split the herbicide and they'll just try to put it in different points of locations around the main monster. Once they do this, Naofumi will send, hopefully and theoretically, a quake right next to the giant monster plants, and it should be able to seep that herbicide within all of the roots. And if he can, which he still doesn't know how to control it precisely, he wants to electrocute those roots using lightning and summoning that said lightning to those roots. And that's exactly what he tries to do. Immediately he distracts the monster, running around, jumping around with his hammer as the monster tries to attack him. Immediately they begin to inject it in different parts of the plants, or different sides of the plant. Filo helps, Raphtalia helps, and also Banner helps. Once that happens, they give the signal. He smashes his hammer down, quaking the plant into the ground slightly more, kind of suffocating it in a way, but allowing the herbicide to seep deeper and deeper. Immediately using the water against it, or the water that is in its roots, he begins to try and summon lightning, spinning his hammer as fast as possible, hoping to summon that lightning. Eventually, a small jolt is sent to him. Nothing insane, but he's able to angle it at the point so that this small bolt of lightning gets struck right into the roots of the plant. When it gets absorbed into the ground or into the roots, it electrifies off of the water, stemming into each one of the roots, dissolving and destroying the plant entirely. The plant is gone, obliterated. and hopefully it will stay that way. But Naofumi tells them that he'll set up a small barrier around the section that the plant was formerly at, and he'll make sure that the plant doesn't, well, overgrow again if need be. But they should be okay. Just don't plant anything over there now. Just plant stuff in different areas, because then it might be basically a recap of what just occurred. After hearing of this successful job, they are ecstatic. They thank Naofumi profusely. How was he able to do it with such proficiency? And he says that his partners are amazing, that he had a lot of help, and he thanks them over and over again. And they say that it's as if there's some amazing people, that they are like the heroes. And he kind of shrugs, saying that that's their job. They want to be heroes and they want to help as many people as possible. And that's the goal. And they begin to say that it's as if he's some almighty god, that he's some almighty hammer hero. And they said they love the sound of that. I'm no god, but thank you. Almighty hammer hero, I'll definitely take that. That sounds pretty cool to me. Naofumi waves them all goodbye and says that he'll come to visit from time to time to check in how they're doing. But of course, he sends them obviously, and tells them his certain locations that he'll be going to more proactively in terms of like Loot Village, Nelramar Kingdom, stuff like that. And says that he'll be there most of the time in terms of where he needs to visit. So if they ever need help, send people over there, and either the people there will help them, or also they probably can get in touch with Naofumi. They thank him once again, and Naofumi waves them all goodbye, and so does his party. The next location that they are headed up to is this odd spring area. It's as if this like spa type of hot springs, and he just delivers a package. They decide that it's probably for the best that they get some time to relax. Frankly, they've been just pedal to the metal this whole time, especially Banner. Banner wants to actually level up as quick as possible, gaining levels just as Raphtalia once did, and to close that gap is super difficult, especially because Raphtalia and Filo are already kind of caught up. Filo and Raphtalia are at level 37 each, and Banner, who just joined their party, is only at a measly level 22. He's not extremely strong, but let's be honest, his beast form is strong enough to actually help him keep up. He also has matured to about an age of 18 to 19, so he is a far bit stronger in terms of genetics as well. And nonetheless, this little hot springs type of vacation they have for at least one night is nice. They have a nice time relaxing and getting everything settled, but that next morning they get sign of another mission. It seems like there's another village nearby, and this village is in desperate need of some help. A plague is happening and has been bestowed upon this entire village. A plague that is tearing their village to pieces, hurting everybody, making everybody sick. They need help, and Naofumi is there to help. He arrives and he sees everything that's happening and begins to immediately tries to structure something so that the air kind of reflects off of some borders around their village and lessen the blow of the plague. But nonetheless, he has to handle whatever is up there. And according to the people of the village, what's up there is a dead dragon that is rotting completely. And it is all because of Ren, the sword hero. Once he hears this, he gets kind of frustrated. At the end of the day, these people are supposed to be helping, not hurting everybody. It seems as if they have no care for every village that's around, no care for anything other than themselves. And that is a major problem. And frankly, he can assume like that problem will continue to happen. But nonetheless, him, Raphtalia, Banner, and Filo will head up and see what they can do in terms of disposing this body. When they head up, they see the body. It's a giant dragon. But he tells Filo and Raphtalia to stay down because it seems that Banner is not affected. Filo says that she's not affected either, so Raphtalia is forced to stay down as well. She doesn't want to, but at the same time, Naofumi would rather not her get sick for no reason when they can handle it up here. So he heads up and begins to head toward the dragon. But just as they head over, everything begins to quake. He realizes that this dragon is coming back to life, telling Banner immediately to punch that thing into the ground slightly so he can hammer it himself. Making that little slight earthquake after Banner hammers him in, it traps the dragon slightly, at least its back two legs. So the dragon currently cannot move and is partially immobilized, giving Filo the chance to attack its more crucial areas. But instead of that, Filo tries her best to hit him in the face, which is very dumb. The dragon immediately swallows Filo whole, enraging Banner and even enraging Naofumi. Banner grows in size even more, attacking the dragon, slamming his fist into the eye of the dragon. Naofumi sees how much stronger Banner has gotten, and he looks at his hammer. The hammer seems to be spazzing, freaking out. He raises the hammer to the sky as lightning begins to strike even more. It's as if his emotion, his rage, his frustration of letting Filo just die like that is boiling over. He reaches his hammer back and throws it as hard as possible, putting it right through the dragon. The dragon now has the hammer within its stomach, and it gets buried into the ground. The dragon collapses as Banner smacks his head right into the ground as well. Immediately, lightning begins to surge from the hammer and also the hands of Naofumi. Feeling this lightning power, the thunder itself overwhelm him. He lifts his hands to the sky and lets it all go. Lightning begins to strike down on the dragon haywire, just going crazy. Banner runs out of the way as the dragon obliterates, at least the top half of it, pops open like a lid. Just as this happens, he retracts the hammer once again to his hand. But what's on the hammer is something different. It's actually this weird gem. As the gem lays on the hammer, it absorbs within it, creating something different. The hammer's lightning begins to spark like crazy, and it just calms down. And something else was currently unlocked. Naofumi tries to figure out what just happened, but it seems as if nothing exactly happened. He couldn't really put his finger on exactly what occurred within his hammer. But of course, he was more concerned about where Filo was and if she was somehow miraculously okay. In which, surprisingly enough, she was. She's still in her giant Filo form, and she comes out of the dragon shaking off all the blood and guts. In which Naofumi and Banner calm down and are happy to see that she's not dead. Filo says that it's truly no problem, that she had no intention of dying anyways within that stomach. It was too gross to die in. And Naofumi just sighs and walks down toward Raphtalia, and she's frustrated that she couldn't help herself. But they say once again that she will have her time, that she is gaining in strength rapidly, and maybe sooner rather than later, she will gain strength beyond that of anybody. But that will have to be seen later. Naofumi and his party head back down and tell everybody what occurred, actually helping them take a bit of a shower, because obviously Filo and all of them are kind of covered in blood and guts, so they take some of the water they have and basically like this river nearby and wash them off, and help wash them off. After some time of chatting and a little bit of reward, they thank them again, and Naofumi and his party begin to head back to the capital. Obviously, the wave is going to be upon them in not too long from now, so they head back using Filo and her little cart, or her little wagon, and they begin to head back toward the capital. During this time though, and one of their trips back, Filo spots somebody running out to her and actually introducing herself. The girl's name is Melty, and she's been playing with other Filolios, in which she brings Melty over and begs Naofumi to help take her to the capital, that she needs help being escorted. So of course Naofumi says that's fine, that it'll help her out and bring her there right now. So they take her back to the capital, but just as they arrive, immediately he's attacked by a spear, slipping the spear to the side and immediately dodging, landing a hammer strike on the back of Multiyasu, throwing him to the ground. Immediately Melty puts a stop to their fight, saying that this is not something heroes should be doing, and on the regard of the second princess, they will stop now. Naofumi is shocked. The second princess? That means you're next in line to be the queen. What about the other one? Your sister, I assume. She explains that Melty is toxic, extremely toxic. Well, knew that much. Melty continues to explain that she is the next in line for princess because of that, and that they should not be fighting, and the person who starts a fight like this should be punished. He's lucky that he's a hero. Naofumi basically walks over toward Melty and tells everyone that it's time to go, in which Melty says she has no gripe against him. She never has, and he seems like a great hero. And if she can help in any way, she wants to do that. So we ask, how do we get our class upgrades? Isn't that like a Dragon Hourglass thing? Melty says of course, so she takes them over to actually get their class upgrades. Banner not being able to get his, but Filo and Raphtalia being of proper level now, they begin to actually ask about their class upgrades but for some reason they're rejected. It seems that the hammer hero is not allowed to do so. Why? He has no idea. But it seems that this so-called church wants to just favor the other 3 heroes. Melty begins to argue this, but even they begin to not budge on even what Melty says. Naofumi says it's fine, that he'll handle whatever he has to handle later, and that he can probably go somewhere else. He's heard rumors of other countries that he can probably go to that have hourglasses, so it doesn't really matter. He'll handle it when it comes to it. Nonetheless, he has a wave to prepare for, and he only has 48 hours to do so. So the scouting begins in terms of looking for various other villages that they can help out, get set up, basically get ready for the wave. And when they do such a thing, they actually do come across a bunch of refugees. Luckily, they have some extra food because that's what they've been begging for. And Naofumi asks, hey, what's going on? What even happened? Why are you out here? No food, nothing like that. Is that a normality? And they begin to explain that Itsuki, actually the bow hero, saved them from this tyrannical rule. But they put in another government that was just as bad. So it just made things even worse, and now they would rather starve than be over there. Naofumi hears this and says he'll help them out. There's a couple villages that he talked to, Lewd Village, other villages like that. There's some couple empty homes. They can go there. Maybe not everybody, or if they do, everybody has to kind of stay in one place, if that's okay. In which they say that's fine, that they'll go over there right now, and they'll say that they talked to you, or talk to Naofumi, in which he says that's completely fine. But he wants to go speak with some other people. His party members ask what's going on, and he says to everyone go into their smallest forms. Well, obviously Raphtalia being kind of like a bigger adult, but he just basically tells them all to grab on as he swings his hammer and throws himself to Melremark. They land back in Melremark, and they are actually kind of shocked. We didn't know you can fly. It's like sort of flying, I guess. It's kind of just me throwing my hammer and it kind of just flies. So it's like my hammer's flying, not really me. But that's beyond the point. Naofumi then enters this tavern of some sorts and begins speaking with Itsuki and Ren about everything that occurred. Motsuyasu won't listen, so let's hope they do. They begin speaking, and he explains that yeah, maybe he took the money for their quote-unquote like mission, but they didn't finish their mission. He explains to Ren, you killed the dragon and didn't dispose of it, causing a plague in a village, making things 10 times worse. And on top of that, Itsuki, you literally started a revolution just to put another bad government into place. Why would you do that? You know everything has to be regulated. That's simple things. You learn this in school. So it's really no excuse. Once they hear this, they realize what they did. They realize how kind of clueless they were being. Of course, they're not going to dramatically change their personalities. That's just not a thing. But at the end of the day, maybe this will bring them some light, especially from someone that isn't a bad person by any means, and they do have decent respect for Naofumi. He says, once again, he doesn't mean to come out their throats like this, but he wants the best for everybody in this country and everybody outside the country. So he hopes that they take this to heart. They say they will, and that they'll make sure they're paying more attention, that there is more to this world than just themselves. He's happy to hear it, and he decides that he'll head off and that the wave is about to be upon them, so he'll need to be ready. Plotting up at Lewd Village and getting everything set for that next defense, Naofumi begins to learn about this crystal that he gained. It seems like this crystal actually will grant him something different. The dragon he got this crystal from has immense power, and when he connects that dragon with his hammer, it seems as if it creates a brand new weapon. It's like a hybrid weapon of some sorts. It seems like there's an axe on one side and a giant hammer on the other. He looks at it and is in shock. He can use both sides to his own advantage. Both sides are lethal for their own, usage. So Naofumi is happy to see this, and he calls this weapon Stormbreaker, a weapon that can channel the lightning, the thunder, the storms, even better than the one he had before. But it seems like his weapon didn't actually disappear. It wasn't a combination, it was a duplicate. He picks up his other hammer and sees that he can actually use them both. It's kind of odd, but he decides to do something. He puts it down and says that whoever can pick that up will use it, will wield it in this wave. And he smiles and says that he assumes that he knows who will be able to do such a thing. But during this course of people trying to pick it up, random villagers, blah blah blah, Banner and Filo cannot do it, but Raphtalia for some reason refuses to try. But maybe this is for a reason. Nonetheless, the wave is about to begin, and when the wave does begin, they begin fighting and protecting Loot Village. It's actually pretty easy though. Seems relatively easy actually, and it seems as if, well, this wave is kind of a wash. At least in terms of protecting Loot Village and these basic monsters, this is nothing. But after a couple hours pass, and the wave isn't over, this is a cause for concern. He tells everyone to grab on, that they're gonna go head over, and he throws Stormbreaker, but it does feel like Stormbreaker is a little bit different. It seems like Stormbreaker is gifting him the ability to fly. It seems like flying is a lot different without his hammer, and Stormbreaker gives him that ability, especially with a connection with the dragon, and obviously dragons can fly. So he flies over to see this Dutchman-like ship, and the other heroes arguing? Why are they arguing? He begins to just land on top of the ship, saying that they need to handle what's going on now. Immediately, he points out the shadow and throws Stormbreaker at it, revealing the actual boss. The actual boss is this Soul Eater. It seems like the Soul Eater is the actual boss, and everybody tries to attack it, except for obviously Naofumi and them, but no damage is done. It seems like these other heroes are extremely weak. Naofumi shakes his head and throws Stormbreaker at it, immediately slicing it in half and obliterates it in one foul swoop, grabbing Stormbreaker once again and pointing toward the body of the Soul Eater. You all need to figure out what your game plan is. Seriously. Arguing with each other and not realizing you're not even strong enough to defeat the thing? That's a problem. Immediately as they begin to say this though, another Soul Eater appears. But instead of Naofumi killing it, someone else does. Someone else from above. Glass strikes down the Soul Eater in an instant, and a woman obviously is revealed by the name of Glass with a black kimono and 2 twin-bladed war fans. Naofumi looks at her. You're different. You seem strong. This will be interesting for sure. But who are you exactly? She introduces herself as Glass, an otherworlder, you could say, and she begins to immediately begin her assault on the other 3 heroes, knocking them out cold, saying that Naofumi is the only one that can really stand a chance. Well, him and his party. But frankly, he won't be able to live up to her, and that she will put him right back down, just like the other ones. Naofumi grips down Stormbreaker and tells the other people behind him, Banner, Raphtalia, and Filo, to stand back and relax. But Banner says that he's there to help, growing into his Hulk form, but even being bigger this time. On top of that, Filo is in her Filial Queen form as well, and telling him that they're not going to let him fight on his own. And immediately, a hammer hits Glass in the back of the head, forcing her down to the ship. Immediately, the hammer goes flying to Naofumi, but it goes past his head as if it wasn't going to him in the first place. Behind him, Raphtalia catches the hammer, and immediately her armor is transcended and evolved into some sort of Norse mythology type of armor. She looks at Naofumi and smiles. It looks like I was worthy, Master Naofumi. And that is a wrap for this first installment, Allmighty, Naofumi the Legendary Hammer Hero. If you enjoyed the first installment, leave a like, sub, comment down below, check the description, Discord, membership, my Spotify, all that good stuff. Check it all out. I hope y'all enjoyed, like I said, and I hope all of y'all have an amazing day. Later.
I don't wanna waste what's left.